What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more acid trance, I'll say. I mean, look, this track, if you look at my review on Discogs, and we're going to talk about Pablo Gargano's Space Travel. Those of you who know my channel, my old channel, those of you who know my reviews on Discogs, and those of you who know my DJ sets will know that Pablo Gargano is one of my favorite producers all time, period. Like, I don't even need to specify one of my favorite acid trance producers, whatever. He really is as good as it gets. Stopped producing for the most part in the early 2000s, like maybe 2004, 2005, I think is the last vinyl release that I can track down. Ultimately, his tunes by that point had already changed a little bit. The production quality is still excellent, but he went a little more like progressive trance, a little more like slower melodic trance, whereas people who know his tunes will know that in the 90s he was making, you know, really fast, kind of hard acid trance. Initially on, actually, Rabbit City, I think, was the first label, then on Metropolitan for several releases, and then he and his friend Simon started Eve. Initially, I think they were like up in Northern Ireland together. Pablo comes from Italy, but he was in Northern Ireland. I think Belfast is where he started like this like Hellraiser club night, which is like where he initially kind of got some acclaim and interest, and then moved to London and they started the Eve label, basically as an output for Pablo's material. And you know, to say that he was prolific, to say that like between late 95 and by my estimation like maybe late 99, he literally didn't put a production foot wrong. It's like every tune he made during that period, while some may be better than others, they're just great production quality, eccentric composition, like really creative, like acid in nearly every track, excellent melodies, wicked kick drums. He also engineered tunes for another producer from Ireland, David Craig, made tunes on more on Telica, although one or two I think are on Eve. Yeah, bottom line, Pablo Gargano, one of my favorite producers. I reacted to Ultimate Frontier on this double LP album, which is called Girantondo. It's the second like major album that he put out on Eve. Senza Volto, or like Without Face, which that's another thing. His releases, I didn't know it was Pablo Gargano back in the day because Eve Records just said Eve 17, Eve 5, Eve 9. They didn't say the artist name or the track titles, which I respect the ethos. I respect it, like, hey man, this is about the music. It's not about me. It's not about like, oh, we want to like watch this person up on stage or like whatever. I totally respect the ethos behind it. But as a DJ, it was like, dude, like who's making these tunes? Because they're so good. I want to get more Eve Records, but like when people ask me what was that track, I'm like, that was Eve 17 B2. Like, they, what? Is that the artist? Like, no, the Eve is the label and it's the B2 track. And like, well, what's it called? I don't know. So eventually, by the turn of the millennium, Eve started putting like track titles on some of the releases, or at least on the sleeves. So again, I totally respect the Senza Volto kind of ethos. But it was a little frustrating as a DJ. But now that I know it's like Pablo Gargano and I have Discogs to help fill in the details here and there, it's all good. But yeah, bottom line, in the back in the day, it was a little frustrating. But his first album is so good, Senza Volto. I think it was 96 or 97. Girantondo here is 98. I think it's brilliant. It's like if Senza Volto is like a 97%, this is like a 95%, and I think it would have gotten a little more attention if not for Senza Volto being so awesome that it would like, I guess for some people it felt like a little bit of a half step down, but for me, I think it's like pretty much on the same level. And indeed, Ultimate Frontier, I probably like better than anything on Senza Volto. So, bottom line, we're going to listen to Space Travel, which not only, you know, if you know me, you know, like my ambient mixes, my trance mixes, I'm very into like a Carl Sagan style, like, hey man, you know, humanity's future, if we're gonna survive, is out in space. It's, you know, at least within this solar system and other places, if not among other stars of the Milky Way. So yeah, I'm very interested in space travel, not only in a like more technical, like actual detailed sense, but also in a sort of like future-looking sci-fi, can we imagine ourselves with a colony on Mars and so on. So yeah, that informs like the Ambient Excursion series that I make and other aspects of my creative life as a DJ. So I love the fact that Pablo has a track called Space Travel, just straight out of the box, and talk about a tune that perfectly encapsulates its title. It really feels like at the beginning we're sort of like preparing and we're about to launch out into the cosmos, and then it feels like we're out there and it's a bit alien, it's a bit, mysterious, a bit unknown, and then it's dramatic and there are forces like pulling this way and that. There's some acid work. So yeah, I think it perfectly encapsulates the idea of space travel. It blends different trance styles. I think it is acid trance on some level, but it's also sort of, typical Eve Records hard trance, because, for me, there are a lot of tracks where, like, the acid is kind of the main thing, the main focus of the track, and for me that makes it acid trance, not just hard trance, even if it is also hard trance. Whereas there are other hard trance tracks where there's acid, but it's more supplemental. It's like a little rhythm, like acid snarl or something like that. Whereas again, other tracks, it's like the melody is in acid itself. So yeah, like some people I think would classify this as hard trance, but it's also sort of like, it's got some melody and it's a bit floaty. Some people might call it progressive trance. So I think it's sort of a buffet of different trance styles. So this is Pablo Gargano, 1998, and the track is Space Travel. Let me make sure I have the right disc. There's actually 3 records, which, it's cool to have a 3-record album, but then you gotta, if you're in the middle of a mix, you don't always have time to look around like, oh, which one is it? Not this one. Oh crap, 2 minutes of the record that is playing now is already gone, so now I need to rush. Good lord, I guess it was the first one? Okay, it is. Or the last one, technically, because it's the 3rd disc. But yeah, here we go. This is Pablo Gargano, 1998, and the track is Space Travel. So prepare for blast off. Although it feels more like a cautious approach into space, not like a super energetic one. And indeed, like the first minute and a half of the tune is ambient. I have 2 copies of this album. Given that scratch, I'm thinking I picked the wrong one. Seems to be subsiding. Perhaps we can say that the spacecraft was constructed in Earth orbit, which would be logical for a larger spacecraft in the first place. So then escape velocity is less of a concern, and we can just gently cruise out into the solar system. Doubles in my collection where like one of the copies on the sleeve will say good copy and the other one is like the not good copy. That's sort of like any little like acid spinal cord that's why. I'm usually mixing out by this point. That's why I don't remember this specifically, but like this, again, like restrained kick, like soft kick on the way out. Sounds like we've landed on an advanced space station. The end. Yep. Top tune. It's hard to say. Maybe my second favorite on the release. I mentioned Ultimate Frontier is one of my favorite from him all time, and that probably is my favorite track on this album. But this one's good. Call Waiting. Yeah, the whole album's good. But this probably is my second favorite, although, again, it's very different from Ultimate Frontier. Ultimate Frontier is a much more, like, it's energetic, it's driving, it's, it's wicked, like, fast acid trance or hard trance with a bit of an acid flare, again, depending on how you define these things. For me, though, Pablo Gargano's catalog is like, yeah, it's hard trance, but, acid is, like, one of the main stars of every one of his productions. So, yeah, to me, I'll always call it acid trance. But yeah, top tune, let me know what you think. Again, I think it really captures the atmosphere of the phrase space travel as much as any sort of trance track can. So, yeah, let me know what you think. Other than that, I will see you next time. Peace.